So in this video, I'll be talking about what happened to Merk, Killa, MBoZe, and Study. Um, all these guys are former champions, especially Merk, who is a 14-time champion. Then you have Killa, who pretty much dominated the first half of Black Ops 2. You have MBoZe, who was with that Unite squad, who took down Complexity at PAX. Even though that event was not a major event, I mean, first place got like $5,000. So, but they still stopped Complexity on their run. So MBoZe is a champion, and he plays like top 3 at Call of Duty Ghost Championship. So obviously he has power to get up there in the top 3 and also take an event. Like I said, that event he played against Complexity when he was on Unite MBoZe. He played great. Then we have Study, who was like a great up and coming talent in Ghost. I mean, this guy was unbelievable with he started out in the beginning of Ghost. What was that team called? Justice, which they finished 3rd place, and Study was going off the whole entire event. It caught a lot of eyes, caught a lot of attention on him. Ended up getting picked up by Team Envious. They placed 2nd at Champs. They placed 2nd at I think a UMG event up in Canada. I think Niagara. They placed 2nd at Niagara. Then Study ended up getting released from Envy. Then he joined Denial. He actually won an event. Denial towards the end of Call of Duty Ghost was considered the best slaying team in the game, up there with Team Envious at the time. So all of these guys are champions, and a lot of these guys are getting screwed over. A lot of these guys are not playing well, and really Call of Duty is evolving around having 4 slayers or 4 people that can go off at any point. We see with FaZe and Optic Gaming being so far at the top teams, and probably the top teams in Black Ops 3. So as the game evolves to kind of like, you have 4 slayers on one team, a lot of these guys like Merk, for example, when he was on Envy in the beginning of Advanced Warfare, he was not dropping numbers. I mean, he had awful champs in AW. I mean, if you go back and watch some videos, I mean, Merk was just not doing well, and it comes down to the point where if you're not performing, you're gonna get dropped, and you're not gonna get picked up by a top team. A lot of these guys, ever since COD stats got announced, they talk about the stats over Twitter. Ever since that got announced, a lot of these teams are going by stats. Who's dropping the most numbers, and pretty much in order to beat FaZe or Optic now, you gotta have slaying power. You can't just go. I mean, you could go off of teamwork, but really, you have to match up with their slaying power very well, or you're just gonna get outmatched and outslayed. So Merk, like I said, he was not performing well. He got dropped from Envy. Then he kind of like bounced around with lower tier organizations. He was still performing bad. So it all comes down if he gets on a team. I believe right now he's a free agent. He was on E6 with Censor, Apathy, and Saints, but they ended up releasing him for Dito to bring back that old SP roster from back in the day. But it all comes down if he can find a team, and then if he can perform well. From my understanding is he's going back to the AR role, which was what he did in Black Ops 2. And pretty much he's always been an AR player, ever since he switched to the OBJ role for Team Envious after Rambo left. His stats and all that, and his slaying ability has all went down as he focused on the OBJ other than getting kills. And like I said, Call of Duty is evolving around 4 slayers, which is sad to say. Some of these OBJ guys are loved by the community, and they don't have really good teams, or they're not getting picked up. So Merk, if he gets on a team, he has to perform, to show people that he can drop numbers as an AR now, since he's back to the AR role. Moving on to Killa, like I said, it just comes down to him performing. Black Ops 2, a lot of teams would have died to get Killa. Unite roster with MBoZe, when they took down Complexity, right after they won that event, they dropped MBoZe to pick up Killa because they thought, they'll have a better chance at winning more events with Killa, and that's how good Killa was at Black Ops 2. He is a self-proclaimed best S&D player in the world, which I wouldn't, he's good at S&D. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't say he's the best. But he grinds S&D with Fizzerp and all those guys, so he knows S&D very well. It just comes down to the performance. Like I said, these teams are building up slaying rosters, and until Killa starts picking it up in the kills department, You know, I hate to say this, but maybe he needs to play more selfish to get some kills, because like I said, a lot of these teams are going by stat sheets, which is you know, I don't really like to see that, but you know, it's the truth. They got to build up slaying rosters to compete with the best. And until Killa, you know, starts getting some kills and does better in respawn and actually shows the world he's back on top, then he'll get picked up by a top team. Until then, he's gonna stay with these lower tier players in lower tier organizations. So, and moving on to Study, I mean, this guy was like a top prospect. I'm saying that like he's some sort of baseball player, but now this guy was an up-and-coming young talent, young slayer with Justice when Ghost released. You know, he got third at that event, and everyone was looking at Study like this guy's a monster, especially in S&D with his sniper rifle. He can, you know, cut off flanks, watch certain areas. You know, this guy was like one of the best snipers in the game as well. So he was a great addition for S&D. Envy ended up picking him up, and it was like a great fit. Like they got second at the World Championship in Ghost. They got, I believe, like top 4 at regionals, and they got like second at a UMG event. So Study with Envy was like a great pickup. He ended up, you know, not really working out with the squad. You know, there was a lot of communication errors. That's what they said when they picked up Formal and JCap at the time, and it ended up releasing Study, and Study went on to Denial. At the time when he joined Denial, he was on, you know, that Denial roster, and they were considered like the best lane team in the game, if you guys can remember back then. You know, Envy was up there as well, them two as the best lane team towards the end of Ghost. And he even won his first event with Denial, and they won a UMG event, beating his former team, Envy, in the finals. So, you know, Study, he had a very successful Call of Duty Ghost season. Then as soon as AW came out, you know, he got dropped from Denial. Then he was just like Killa, you know, bouncing off lower tier teams. You know, Killa got back on Optic Nation, but you know, he ended up getting dropped. But anyway, until he starts performing like he once did, just like Killa, like I said, he's going to stay with these lower tier players and these lower tier organizations. Now, these guys can't win. They won before, obviously, but you know, like I said, every team has someone who can slay. They have multiple slayers, so it's really hard to beat with these lower tier players. You know, if you're putting like a pickup team together with these lower, you know, tier players, it's going to be really hard to beat these guys, these top teams. Then we have MBoZe, which honestly, you know, from watching MBoZe at events, you know, it just comes down to performance. If he can just step up his game, maybe play a little bit more selfish. Which, at the end of the day, you know, the team MBoZe is with, I don't even know what the rest of the players he's teaming with. But you know, maybe he needs to play a little bit more selfish, bring up his stats on the stat sheet, and probably he'll eventually get picked up by a top team eventually. You know, it just comes down to his performance. All of these guys, all 4 of these guys, you know, if they can come back to the players they used to be, then they'll get picked up. Like I said, Call of Duty is evolving to like 4 slayers or 4 people who can go off at any point in time. So like I said, they just need to perform and they'll be back on top. Anyway, that's the video. It's kind of long. I do apologize. I'll talk to you guys in my next video, and peace out.